Welcome back to Sportsline. Legend has it, 10 years ago tomorrow night, this show debuted on the air. An air of electricity around the building today. And I think it's safe to say both of us watched that show and realized we wanted to do something like it and probably didn't know it would end up like this, obviously.
We were fans of the show before we got to work on the show, and I think that everyone who's seen the show or worked on it has a similar type enthusiasm. And tonight's, it's now come to fruition. Myself and editor Joe DePonte sat up for the last few nights, and here's what we came up with for you.
There at the post, zero.
Can you believe it? This is what Sportsline looked like 10 years ago tonight. It went to the post with Bob McCown as host and immediately gained somewhat of a cult following. Over the years, Sportsline has undergone a few personnel changes, too.
Kevin Newman for Sportsline. Bill Bird for Sportsline.
Andrea Carmen for Sportsline.
Jerry Dodson for Sportsline.
In Hamilton, Jerry Pipe for Sportsline.
In Quebec City, Jim Taddy, Sportsline.
I'm Mark Hebscher in Dunedin, Florida with the Blue Jays for Sportsline.
At Maple Leaf Gardens, Nick Cesaria for Sportsline.
Frank Giannone for Sportsline.
I'm Jim Ralph for Sportsline.
This is Don Martin with the Blue Jays in Dunedin for Sportsline.
In Calgary, Bill Bird for Sportsline.
In the past decade, Sportsline has talked to a lot of people. We remember the great ones when they were young, the coaches when they had more hair and less worries. We recall the executives, the top draft picks, the stoppers, the movers and shakers, and the big sluggers when they were younger and slimmer.
There's always going to be sportscasters. So now let's sort of fast forward to the Global Sports Line in 1997 with Mark Hebscher and Jim Taddy.
7 years ago, Sportsline switched to the two-host format. And while it still provided 30 minutes of highlights, scores, and info, it also featured interesting hairstyles, airy badinage, and the odd humorous moment.
This is Jim, and this is Mark, and this is Sportsline.
Here's one of my favorites. It's the two-man bobsled minus one. And it's wait for me, Wolfgang. Wait for me. I'm coming. Wait for. Oh, darn it.
Now, how do you know?
Welcome back to Sportsline. Sometimes first impressions aren't worth much. Tonight at the Skydome, Todd Stoudemire. Oh, no. No. Todd Stoudemire against the first batter.
Do I slide or don't I? I think I won't. I think I will. I will! Well, I don't know whether he slid or stood. And the last basketball game of the season went tonight in Tinseltown. Pistons, Lakers highlights. Pistons, Lakers. Coming up today with us.
Stoudemire really settled down after that. Boy, did he ever. And with a little help from...
Come on.
From Dwayne Ward, Stoudemire.
The answer to our great tuxedo mystery. Why are we wearing these things? Stay with us.
It's Sportsline.
Golf shot of the year. Hey, keep your head down.
The final was 24-14 for the Giants. All right, and a more serious note, that's it for sports. There was also the time we added a new staff member.
Did you let out Sparky, the Sportsline dog?
Sparky! Spark! Come here! Come on, you'll be on TV. Come on.
Your home.
Come on, you'll be on TV.
Sportsline.
Come on, right in front of the camera. Come on. Attaboy. And in our never-ending quest to discover the real story, Sportsline has traveled to some pretty exotic locales.
And that's the reason we're here.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the San Francisco Bay Area, home of Super Bowl.
It'll be time to dust off the old ticket window.
In the midst of this megabucks mania, there is an oasis of sanity. When all is said and done and the day winds down, if you're in Northern Ontario and you happen to visit one of the many outdoor rinks here, you may not...
After years without Roger Staubach, Dallas fans are still wondering how to spell relief.
Well, Kim's been getting a lot of lip around the paddock lately.
She could have ridden 8 or 9 mounts every card.
Inside this building, the Leaf Brass has been scrutinizing the top juniors.
Anyway, that's another story entirely. We'll get to that maybe later on in the program.
But when we come back, a review of a season that was downright unpredictable. The NFC playoffs that weren't too exciting, and the AFC playoffs that certainly were. Stay with us.
It's only May, and there are still more than 120 games to go. But as you can hear, Blue Jay fever is alive and well.
Alomar has maintained from the beginning that it doesn't matter what he does as long as the team wins. But there's no arguing the fact that many times the team wins because of what he does.
When owner Bob Rich says he provides a good time out here, he isn't kidding.
may be a little humorous to you since you get to watch the game on your living room couch. You see, these are what you call high school bleacher wood, complete with splinters. They go for a bare minimum, $60.
And a legend of her own time. It's just a thrill.
Is she as tough as you thought she'd be?
Tougher.
Hey, you take that camera out of my face? This guy right here, he's selling. I'm telling you, man. And you know this man. He's going to sue you guys.
Well, that's a good deal of the story, but as the man said, it's not the whole story. Sometimes people just don't want to hear Sportsline's probing questions.
Don't waste my time. I'm not interested in talking foolishness. You don't know enough about it, and I don't know enough about it. So if you want to ask questions that make sense, ask the questions, but don't waste my time on foolishness.
Well, the article was very inflammatory toward you. And I'm just wondering why there hasn't been a retraction, or if it's inaccurate, why you haven't taken some kind of action.
I have no intention of wasting my time with fools. And if you wish to join that group, keep asking this type of question.
Is your team humiliated in there?
Oh, don't be a jerk. I mean, humiliated? What do you mean? For 30 minutes, we outplay them, and then all of a sudden, for understandable reasons, we blow our composure. That's a stupid question.
How do you saw Billy Reed?
Stupid game?
Yeah, well, you're a stupid reporter.
Was he not following the game plan? Was he? What was his problem out there?
That's between us.
But why? You were upset for a reason, obviously. He didn't do something right.
You asked me 3 different ways, and I said that's between us. That's all you're going to get.
A lot of people making you out to be the heavy in this scenario, Mr. Scalbani. What's your reaction?
Tell me why.
They
I don't understand if you tell me why.
They think that the Montreal franchise is going belly up, that's why.
Is that right? No. Oh, is that why you're heavy? Because you lose a lot of money?
I guess so.
You're heavy if Kimball beats the shit out of you, maybe, but I don't know why you're heavy, because you lose money.
We both went right down to the wire, and it finished in the 11th round, where he fell either of collapsion or a punch.
Hey, no camera. I'll go talk to this guy right here. No camera. I'm sorry. You understand? No camera. Let me talk to him.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome back. As you've seen, Sportsline cameras have popped up in a lot of places over the past 10 years. We've also gained a strong and loyal legion of fans, some of whom have watched every one of the 3,000 editions of Sportsline. We've also been honored within our industry. In the past 5 years, Sportsline has been nominated for 3 Gemini Awards as Best Sports Program in Canada. We've yet to win, but we're getting awfully close. And as we embark on our 2nd decade, we especially want to thank you, the viewer. Without your support, Sportsline would never have made it this far.
Do you have an opinion on anything else before we go?
Anything else, yeah. Thanks for allowing us into your homes. Good night from Sportsline.
Have a great weekend. Good night.
Oh, my, a 10th anniversary reminds me of high school.
Yeah, I think we probably could have done a half an hour. There's so much stuff, and I mean, a lot of people came up after the fact and said, geez, what about this? Remember when this happened? And really, along the way, when myself and Joe were sitting down, a lot of people came with some other ideas, and we scrambled to find some tapes. Some we couldn't find, some we could, and there was probably a heck of a lot more we could get in there. But pretty much the gist of what we're all about is have some fun, get the facts correct, make it entertaining, ask the right questions, and hopefully, present a half-hour package that's appealing to the viewers.
I think when we have our 15th, I'll ask programming for another half hour. Anyway, there are some people who were involved in this from the start that aren't here anymore, and we want to acknowledge them because without them, we wouldn't be here. Mark Askin produced this show for 6 years, now works for Hockey Night in Canada, and we can still feel him in the building. Steve Kless was a floor director now at TVO, a very important part of this show. Jim Huff produced the very first show, and as you know, works for Hockey Night in Canada. Right. Terry Lewis directed the first show, is our senior director now. And Rich Thomas, who is still running the newsroom, was a big factor. I think the original executive producer.
And a lot of the guys here, too, the guys and gals here, when they saw the shots that you saw of, people like Kevin Newman and Vic Rauter and Mike Anscombe, who worked in sports before he went to news, or, oh, yeah, I remember that, sure. Geez, look at that kind of thing. And it is kind of fun that way, too, because they were here when the stories were originally starting and when the show had started, too, and I'm sure they had the same feelings of apprehension at the time, and when they saw this, it probably brought a tear. I know it brought a tear to me, and I've been watching the show since day one.
A lot of people have contributed. We want to thank them. Thanks for allowing us into your homes. Here are the people that got us through tonight's show.
Thanks.
Good night.